plus or minus. It always favors the winning side, and that too in a most unique way. It transforms the vibrations of the losing side into those of the majority holder, minus into plus or vice versa, and then adds even that to the majority's total figure. It is also a kind of casting vote in case of a tie. Such casting vote is always thrown in the scale of plus vibrations, for the M center has no minus vibration. Of its own, though, it does possess a small force of plus vibration to tip the balance. The M is known as manas, or in Latin, mens, which literally means mind. The M center carries out interdepartmental memos of and in the mind. It signifies mobility as a cardinal characteristic of mental operations. Now, before we can proceed further to the higher sections, we must have practical exercise for reaching the critical center stage. But no culture measures are of any use unless we come to terms with the cardinal problem of the spiritual life, or for that matter, any kind of serious or purposeful living, which is how to keep up our interest in and enthusiasm for the quest in spite of countless difficulties and reverses. Moreover, let's not forget that the severest trial comes in the form of that monotonous routine of everyday life, the aptly called Grower Alltag, which drains away our strength and enthusiasm alike. For the bulk of our earthly existence is, except in very unusual cases, made up of trifling events and incidents. Even a prime minister or a Hemingway hero must spend a considerable portion of the day dressing, undressing, brushing his teeth, drinking out a glass. Prime minister or bottle, Hemingway hero, and other less mentionable chores. Great, meaning extraordinary. Events occur but rarely in the life of an average person. To bring forth into enthusiasm from great things is almost unavoidable. But how about maintaining such enthusiasm in midst of the daily grind of routine? The acid test for a beginner on the spiritual path lies in sustaining interest for the quest even in the midst of the common detail of life. To maintain equipoise in spite of ceaseless provocations caused by the trifling irritations of everyday existence demands a resoluteness of which only a handful are capable. And yet the viability of the spiritual life is tested in the field of our ordinary activities, like for instance the patience or lack of it with which we wait for a bus, and seldom in the spheres of extraordinary achievements. Without enthusiasm, even the spiritual quest will appear tiresome. But how to keep the fires of enthusiasm burning in the face of idiotic trifles? More spiritual aspirants have fallen back to usual because of a failure to sustain enthusiasm for the quest than due to any other single cause. The inseparable quality of enthusiasm is known as Zenoga, as Preeti. That element of genuine joy which we do a thing. To task our delight, we rise betimes and go to them with longing. Only an enthusiastic life is capable of creativity. When we live creatively, our actions are not stereotyped but reveal an individuality all their own. The precondition for enthusiasm is a condition of profound interest in any thing or person. Can you imagine enthusiasm without interest? The opposite of profound interest is only indifference, but also shallow interest, which may aptly be called sensationalism. Genuine enthusiasm is rooted in profound interest as as an interest which borders on commitment and so draws sustenance from the very depths. A person who is full of commitment of the quest is too enthusiastic to experience dullness even in routine or to do deterred by truffles, however frequent or obstacles however great. The reason why most people do not possess such undiminishing enthusiasm for the quest or for anything else except perhaps the fondling of their grandchildren is that modern man lives his life at a rather superficial level. This cannot be helped in modern techno civilization because of the top heavy enthusiasm emphasis put on speed and efficacy. We are all in terrific hurry to go from where we are to where we are no better. Such a fast or superficial life needs a constant supply of sensations to keep it going. Without kicks or titillations, the danger of depression arising from drudgery cannot be avoided. The modern world may be described as one keen on being high but constant kicks of some kind of another. Alcohol is a kick. Sex is a kick. Sleeping pills are a kick. Murder mysteries are a kick. Even the guru things can become a kick. Now, true spirituality is essentially a matter of deep experience and not of kicks. Some long as we allow our mind to function at superficial levels, we can gather no deep experiences. Without deep experience, we get sex orgies instead of love, parties instead of friendship, dogma instead of devotion, respectability instead of ethics, theology instead of religion, a mind content to dissect a dogma but incapable of comprehending the indwelling spirit. Depth of experience alone is the yardstick of spirituality, and that too irrespective of the sphere of activity. One can be intensely spiritual while working in the stock exchanger or in a brothel. Or one may be anything but spiritual in a church or in an ashram. There is no penumbra of approbation around any activity sui generis. And that is why most men are dissatisfied with the objective conditions of their life. For a superficially led life is always complaining about its destiny, just as a bad workman quarrels with his tools. The discontent of these malcontents is chronic because of the perpetual sense of injustice with which they color all incidents, instead of counting their blessings. Such a person carries on a feud against what he calls his fate. How acutely we feel thwarted by the circumstances in which we have been placed when we ignore the spiritual potentialities beneath. Only the surface of the ocean is whipped to waves by the winds of karma, and its depths are unstirred. Let us gladly accept all that is denoted by fortune instead of gambling with her and losing all in trying to win all as her wheel turns. If we seek the depths, deep experiences, we will have chained the wheel of chance and are free from her rotations. Triumphant living does not mean making no mistakes, but making only our mistakes. Mistakes conditioned by our own way and not adapted principles. The spiritual quest has in our time been supplanted by the quest for security, and yet man remains fettered to the evanescent. Only an immature soul strives for security by attempting to modify the external conditions of life. It is like attempting to be secure in a gale at sea by trying to control the winds. The mind, if shallow, sees only the mutants which being transitory and unreal and so powerless. It is insecure, in other words, the very opposite of what it seeks. The eyes of the initiated see the supramundane. The mundane mind feels restricted by its external environment, be it ideas, persons, or surroundings. All ideologies pertaining to utilitarianism, technocracies, social utopias is so much happy talk. Bhoga Bhumi or enjoymentism instead of Jana Bhumi or wisdom training. Bhoga Bhumi or enjoymentism instead of Jnana Bhumi or wisdom training. It is exactly when our contact with life is shallow and superficial that we find a real or imaginary discords in our external environment. We would then fain cure all social ills, be it by bullet, revolution, or ballot politicare, rather than being with the real spade work, which consists of improving ourselves. Superficial life consists in selecting out of the totality of data reaching us from external world an inchoate group within which attention oscillates. Thus, the more our inner life has dried up, the more do difficulties in the external world loom insurmountable. When we are exhausted within, we seek solace from without. What slows down our enthusiasm for the spiritual life is a lack of profound interest in the quest. A mere change in our fortunes would not for certain renew our interest. The problem remains how to enter the very depths of our being in itself. We can and should work at improving our external circumstances. Yet we should make the end also the means, in that we look upon the situation in which life places us not as so many obstacles but as so many fields of expression of our spiritual urges. Then changes in environment will follow and not precede the unfolding of profound interests. A mind devoid of profound interest will not even notice the advantages an improved environment brings him. He carries his bad habits into the new environment and poisons it to boot. He carries ruins to ruins. On the other hand, external obstacles are swept away under the impact of genuine enthusiasm resulting from profound interest. What is subjectively felt as profound interest finds its expression in the objective world as genuine enthusiasm. By profound interest, we mean an interest so deep as to cease from being interest for, in or about a specific thing and becomes an interest in itself unrelated to any specific object. It is the sight of interest in itself which brings about genuine enthusiasm. Interest in a specific object excludes the open-mindedness essential to heightened sensitivity. Heightened sensitivity and enthusiasm go together. Without heightened sensitivity and enthusiasm, even great pleasures, be they earthly or heavenly, would subjectively be experienced as dull. No welfare state, no earthly utopia, no heavenly paradise can pour blessings into a mind having no space to receive them, as it is the case with a shallow mind. Oceans are Hochemer, a throat like A throat like that of Ophiuchus cannot make or show black happy. If, on the other hand, we can expand our sensitive receptivity, then our life will undergo moments of deep experience, even in every drudgery. Even routine and trifles become significant when we see in this light. Now the centers of Zenoga, all imaginary points in the four-sectional mind,